Hey guys, Daniel Lewis Crumpton here from downloadedcontent.com. Welcome back to the CannaSense 101 video series. If you are watching this on YouTube, I do urge that you actually go to downloadedcontent.com and click on the CannaSense Total Wellness page at the top so you could see the video series in its entirety there. It'll make more sense. There's some hyperlinks and some other resources for you to better enroll into CannaSense quickly and efficiently and understand the legalities and things like that. So this is CannaSense is an illegal scam part 2. If you're on the web page, you should see it under legalities and objections addressed. So before I really jump into it and get into the meat of this video, I did want to preface it by saying, first and foremost, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to give you any medical advice. I'm not an attorney, not going to give you any legal advice, and I do not work for CannaSense, okay? This is all my own personal experience, testimony, and or opinions. It falls under that classification of CannaSense, so please don't be confused. That being said, what I really do want to stress to you guys is why I'm going through the trouble to do all of this, and it's because, for one thing, I am an American, and I'm very passionate about what this country is supposed to stand for. I'm not talking about the government. I'm not talking about, the official state holidays where we kind of shoot off fireworks and wave flags made in China. I'm talking about the spirit of America, the spirit of freedom, and the spirit of liberty. I'm talking about the essence of what this country, the ideology of what this country was founded upon. When I say I'm an American, that's what I mean. I'm very passionate about my rights. You can say what you will about our founding fathers and about the founding of this country and, about the many indiscretions of the government that alleges to represent us. Those things granted, I am still proud to consider myself an American, somebody who believes in freedom and liberty for all. And so I'm passionate about that. Any of you who have followed my work know that I'm passionate about that. Also, I am someone who uses medical cannabis for the pursuit of happiness or my own well-being for reasons that I've discussed ad nauseum, for addiction recovery, for recovery with post-traumatic stress disorder, for anxiety, for a myriad of different things. I personally have experienced a revolution in the quality of my life by pursuing and embracing the cannabis plant. And it's the same amount of passion that I put into my patriotism and what I believe is encapsulated in the Bill of Rights is the same amount of passion that I put towards the use of cannabis as a medicine for the mind, the body, the spirit. And so I think that it is an absolute crime against humanity for the plant to be as, what's the word I'm looking for, demonized as our federal government and local authorities and for-profit prison industrial complexes as they would have people believe. I think that's utterly disgusting when you have people who are suffering out there. So between those two, and I think that it's important to get this message out, which is why I am such a huge advocate for CannaSense, is because it's my belief that through the CannaSense program, not only are we who are participating in it helping people get access to medicine that could very well save their lives, and in a lot of cases is saving their lives, but we're also carrying with us the message of freedom and liberty. So it's kind of a no-brainer why I am involved in CannaSense because of these two things I'm extremely passionate about. So that is the standpoint of the entire series that you have been watching and why I'm a part of it. And so I want you guys to understand that. And I want you to understand that though I am prefacing that I'm not an attorney, that's not kind of like a scapegoat type thing. That's basically me really looking down on people who acquiesce to the legal structure for answers, for guidance, and for permission. And what I mean when I say that is this country, first and foremost, the supreme authority is supposed to be we the people. It's supposed to be we the people, and it's my belief that ultimately, regardless of how much passage of time or how much uh, the complete opposite of that philosophy our government goes, it is and always will be we the people as the final authority. And so when I say that I look down my nose at the legal structure, what I mean is too many times, especially here recently with CannaSense, I've heard so many people, either in chat rooms or, on the air or in comment sections. I spoke to an attorney, and the attorney said that this is illegal. Well, I've heard attorneys say that O.J. Simpson was not guilty of, double homicide. Attorneys like to argue. That's what they do. I mean, to them, it's a competition. It's a game, more so than a livelihood. It's kind of like a secret fraternity of people who've passed the bar and who live in that world. And it is a world that's completely separated from we the people. Anybody who's been anywhere in the legal system knows they operate by rules that are almost alien to the common man who lives at the law, the laws of the land. It's like a chess game or a tennis match that you're the ball when you go into their world and they spike you and shove all these terms down your throat, when in all actuality, if we go back to the concept of this country, none of that is what we were founded on. We were founded on the idea of we the people have a right to do what we wish, to pursue happiness in this life, so long as what we wish did not infringe upon the rights of other people. So, now I believe that still stands. Just because we as a people over generations have become apathetic to those rights and have not exercised those rights and have not passed on the knowledge that being in a republic is a simple spiritual thing that we have to participate in. Just because we become apathetic and let those rights kind of atrophy doesn't mean that they're not still there for us to claim. I believe that they are. And so when I'm discussing, any of these issues, especially in this particular video, this is not like a debate class. This is not open for debate. I'm not trying to prove anyone's position wrong or anything like that. What I am doing is I'm taking the position of an American who has unalienable rights, some which are enumerated in the Bill of Rights, but most which are not. And through the lens of an American with some semblance of common sense, I'm looking at the maze of legalese and laws and drawing my rights out of the Bill of Rights to do that which allows me happiness and better well-being, and at the expense of no one else. So I want to go ahead and get that out. This is not like a debate or anything like that. So, and that's another reason I urge you to actually go to the website, because the comment sections on other social areas can get a little bit convoluted. And being convoluted is not something I really want to spend too much time on, especially for those who may be listening to this or doing research in order to get medical cannabis to alleviate whatever it is that they're seeking alleviation from, be it cancer, post-traumatic stress disorder, addiction, whatever it is. So I just don't have time for that. There are a lot of people who are looking into medical cannabis that may not be so liberty-minded and may not understand a lot of these ideas and concepts that a lot of you patriots out there understand already. So I kind of want to introduce not only the hope of getting access to medical cannabis, but the fire that our founding fathers wanted to spread throughout the minds of men about liberty and freedom. Benjamin Franklin said only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. And so Um, what I will go ahead and say from my point of view with CannaSense is if you are approaching medical cannabis from the perspective or from the position that you need permission from an all-powerful government, and you want to make sure that all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted, um, you may not get your all the answers that you're looking for. You may not. If you are pursuing some representative from the United States government to come and knock on your door and give you a golden ticket or a golden key or a certificate that says, yes, absolutely 100%, there is no risks involved in pursuing medical cannabis in this fashion, then you may not really want to pursue CannaSense. I'm just going to be honest with you. I really don't think that participating in the CannaSense Total Wellness program is an act of civil disobedience. However, I will say and acquiesce to the idea that it could be perceived as an act of civil disobedience. From my point of view, it is completely lawful in every way. However, in some legislatures' mind, and I'm sure in the mind of many people who get a paycheck from the federal government, that might not be the case, and it is an act of civil disobedience, and they may see it as illegal, and so it is what it is. So, with CannaSense, as I've said previously in this video series, it is new, it is cutting edge. It's the first time a lot of this has been attempted through the law. However, it is being done through the law, and I understand the laws that CannaSense are using to operate and to get people into their medical collective and to provide them with medicine. Makes sense to me. Is lawful to me based off of my reading of the Constitution and some of these other laws and pieces of legislation that I have to look at. But freedom is never for the timid. Freedom is for the bold. So it really is. I can give you information. I can give you information from my point of view and from my experience. But at the end of the day, the decision to pursue medical cannabis or becoming a member of CannaSense is really going to be up to you, the individual. And you're going to have to ask yourself some questions. Whatever state you're living in, I don't mean regional, I mean the state of your quality of life. Is it worth taking the risk for freedom or not? So these are questions that you're going to have to ask yourself, and nobody's going to be able to give you all the answers that you might want to satisfy that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I've said this several times before. The federal government is the federal government. They've got all the guns, they got all the bombs, and they got all the cages. They can do whatever they want to do. And we could be in the right 100% and they could still bomb us to kingdom come. I mean, so there's that. But my position is what makes that different than any other day? What makes it different with medical cannabis than, say, every natural vitamin or supplement that happens to have been on Codex Alimentarius that they deem illegal? Not much of a difference in my book. So to me personally, any risk that is associated with pursuing medical cannabis is worth it to enhance my quality of life, even if it's for a small amount of time. So I hope that kind of clarifies where I'm coming from. And it's from the position that I took. I take the founding fathers and what they did seriously. I take them at their word that they really did believe that a noble people could be free and could exercise freedom and liberty with common sense without needing a nanny state. You know, I take it seriously. Whenever I look at a flag or say that I'm an American, it's not the government that I'm kind of rubbing up against, or any pledge of allegiance or any piece of fabric. It's the ideology and the absolute drive and thirst for individual freedom and liberty. So long as you aren't hurting somebody else, you should be free to do whatever you want to do. And medical cannabis and the message of CannaSense is a part of that. So that being said, and through that lens, there are a few objections that I would like to kind of, just give you my 2 cents and you be the judge of it. So here we go. So whenever discussing CannaSense on radio shows and whatnot, the first topic or issue that causes a lot of knee-jerk reactions and quite the ruckus — I'm not quite sure if ruckus is an exclusively Southern word, but you get the idea — from other radio show hosts or people hearing about it for the first time is the fact that CannaSense ships in all 50 states to members of the collective. And, people flip out and, oh, this is a federal offense and this is just illegal and all this other good stuff. So I want to address that and put your mind at ease, or as much ease as the information will allow you to have. So I'm not a huge fan of the United Nations, but I use what I can get. And I'm not going to be exhaustive about this, so you can just Google it yourself. But I would have you look at the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs of 1961. So I'm going to be reading from the Holy of Holies, which is Wikipedia. And basically what it says down here about midway, if you're looking at it on Wikipedia, is the Single Convention repeatedly affirms the importance of medical use of controlled substances. The preamble notes the medical use of narcotic drugs continues to be indispensable for the relief of pain and suffering, that adequate provision must be made to ensure the availability of narcotic drugs for such purposes. Articles 1, 2, 4, 9, 12, 19, and 49 contain provisions relating to, quote, medical and scientific, end quote, use of controlled substances. In all cases, parties are permitted to allow dispensation and use of controlled substances under a prescription, subject to record-keeping requirements and other restrictions. So, just based off this Single Convention of 1961, this is where you have the permissions for controlled substances to be provided and shipped and imported and exported for medical and scientific purposes and the alleviation of pain and suffering. So, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the United Nations, but it's there, and this is why pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that are able to ship prescription drugs to your door. So, what's the big deal with cannabis? Anyway, so there you go. Please look that up. And of course, if you bring it on home, as Led Zeppelin would say, to the Constitution, when you're dealing with shipping across state lines and things like that, that would fall under Article 1, Section 8. And if you look at the third provision, it says, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Of course, this is speaking of a Congress's jurisdiction. So a couple of things I want to point out about this, as other patriots have, is, for one, the word regulate here doesn't mean what they want us to believe in the current day and age. It doesn't mean to control. When the founders drafted our founding documents, the word regulate meant to make regular or to encourage. So that word alone and the original intent of the word kind of changes our perspective on shipping across state lines, medical cannabis, and whatnot. However, something else that I really want to point out is it says to regulate commerce. So even if the word regulate means what they want us to think it means, in the Commerce Clause, basically it's talking about commerce. The beauty of CannaSense Total Wellness is that they are not conducting commerce. CannaSense Total Wellness is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So once again, the jurisdictional issues don't apply to CannaSense Total Wellness. Of course, I can't turn around without someone who objects to CannaSense stating that it crosses state lines and that's a federal offense. I have yet to have any of those objectors show me in the Constitution or anywhere else where a state line is federal territory. When I actually read in the Constitution, in Article 1, Section 8, it tells me what federal territory is, and it's the 10 square miles of the District of Columbia. And it's also forts, ports, magazines, and other useful buildings. That is the jurisdiction and the extent of federal territory, not a state line. If I'm standing in Georgia and you're standing in Florida and in between us is the state line, just because there's an imaginary line there on a map somewhere, does not make it federal territory. So the idea of it crossing a state line being federal territory, I don't even know where the hell that's coming from. So there's that. And lastly, another thing to put your mind at ease in regards to getting your medicine by mail from CannaSense Total Wellness is that CannaSense ships the medicine FOB. So if you put in FOB shipping into Google and go to the almighty Wikipedia, you'll see FOB, free on board, is a term in international commercial law specifying at what point respective obligations, costs, and risks involved in the delivery of goods shift from the seller to the buyer under the Incoterms 2010 standard published by the International Chamber of Commerce. FOB is only used in non-containerized sea freight or inland waterway transport. FOB terms do not define transfer of ownership of the goods. The term FOB is also used in modern domestic shipping within the USA to describe the point at which a seller is no longer responsible for shipping cost. Ownership of a cargo is independent from Incoterms. In international trade, ownership of the cargo is defined by the bill of lading or waybill. So essentially, the manner in which CannaSense ships, FOB, is, in a nutshell, means that they have full responsibility of the goods until it's at its docking point, which is at your mailbox. So I guess my suggestion, if you're really paranoid, is before you go to check your mail, toss a rock at, some odd bushes that may be out in your yard and see if any red dots come out. I'm just joking. Other than that, that puts my mind at ease in conjunction with everything else that we've discussed in this particular video in regards to having the medicine shipped. I don't see anyone's rights being violated here. I don't see any laws being violated here. That's just me. Like I said, this really isn't up for debate. This isn't really a debate video. This is just me as an American telling you what my perspective is and why this all makes perfect legal, lawful, constitutional sense to me. So I hope that alleviates some of your concerns out there. And in the next video, I am going to be discussing firearms license in regards to having a medical cannabis card, as well as something I'm really looking forward to talking about, which is the METS maneuver. So I hope you guys check that one out, and please be sure to spread these videos around to anybody you do know that may be in need of medical cannabis. I would really appreciate it, and I know they would really appreciate you for introducing them to it. So until the next video, you guys be well. Thanks.